Hey Todd, how you doing, man?
Good, Eric. How are you?
So, those of you that for some reason don't know who you are, tell them who you are.
Uh, uh, Tod Hendricks. I don't know what else, Eric.
Well, you are the current national champion,
Yeah, yeah.
long range.
I'm kind of humble in that department.
I understand, but at the same time, I mean that is a big accomplishment. You know what I mean? There's not that many people that get to say they've been national champions, and I know for a fact you've been working really hard for this. So I mean, let's celebrate.
I have already.
But I mean,
Yeah, you're right, Eric. It does take a lot of work. I put in a lot of work. A lot of guys have put in a lot of work.
yeah.
Everything kind of lined up for me on this one.
I mean, you've been so close for the last what 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, you were always up there, second, third. You were just last year you were what, a point away?
A point, half a point, right?
Yeah, you were ahead on the X's.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's my point. You know, it's just so hard to win because everything. It's not one match, right? It's not. It's 3 days that things have to line up.
It is. And, for a long time, I just, my mentality was, put yourself in a position to win on the last day. And I did a lot, but, something always got in the way of that.
Yeah.
And, I kind of put a lot of pressure on myself. And a couple of years ago, I had a conversation with John Meyer.
Uh-huh.
Everybody knows John. And he kind of set it straight for me a little bit. He was nipping at the heels for a long time too.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, finally, he just stopped worrying about it. Said, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I kind of use that,
Yeah.
to take the pressure off a bit.
Well, you know how it is, right? You put a lot of pressure on yourself, and then, for example, you know what it's like to shoot the first clean, right? Clean at 1,000. I know it's been a long time for you, but you remember that, right? And oftentimes
target 33 at Ben Avery, and Mike Ducosbic was my scorer.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know what target I was on, but I know it happened at Bayou for me, and Michelle Gallagher was scoring for me.
There you go.
And she just happened to go down there for that one match. And anyway, it was memorable, right? But the point I'm making here is how many times did you get close? You get to about shot 17, and then you all of a sudden 17, 18, and then all of a sudden it hits you. I'm about to clean it.
Yeah.
And then the wheels fall off, right?
Yeah. I think maybe my clean came quicker than yours. You were shooting longer, and improvements in equipment and guns and
Right.
all that kind of happened rapidly about 4 or 5 years ago. So
Yeah. So how long have you been shooting?
F class about 11 years, I believe.
Okay. Well, about the same here. Oh.
I started out. Unfortunately, we don't have any 1,000-yard ranges close to me.
Uh-huh.
So my first year was first 3 years were like a local 300-yard range.
Okay.
It took a while to see the rest of the world. So,
and that really opens your eyes, doesn't it, when you start to travel to, especially long range.
yeah, and the 300-yard stuff it helped a lot in load development, mechanics on the line, because it's got an inch and a 1.3-inch X ring, and if you're not pounding them down, you're at the bottom.
I went on a journey. So I'll tell you a little story that most people don't know. But back in 2010, I went to Phoenix for the long range championship. I signed up for the long range and the Palma, and they're usually like a week or two apart. And I went and I won the long range. That was the first time I ever left Texas, and I got lucky enough to win the Arizona long range championship. Well, I was trying. A friend of mine and I were both trying to place top 3 because we wanted to join the U.S. team, right? And that's one of the requirements. That's why I left Texas to go shoot. But anyway, I got my win, so I was done, right? Well, when we came back 2 weeks later, in the hotel room the night before, I noticed his ammo was loose. I mean, I could pull it out by hand. And I said, look, I'm already in, use my rifle. And so I let him use my rifle, and I shot his. So all I did was pull all his, like, as long as I could, and then I chambered him real slowly. And long story short, it didn't shoot very good, but I still ended up beating him on day one with his, and he's like, you know what, this ain't working. Give me my rifle back. I said, okay. Long story short, at the end of 3 days, I lost by 1x. Okay, 1x. And it was a guy, it was Palma, right? So 800, 900, 1,000. I lost to one guy shooting a 6BR, believe it or not. Long story short, I went on the journey after that about learning how to shoot X's, because I was always shoot 10s and you win, shoot 10s and you win, shoot 10s and you win. And talking to Steve Blair, Sleepy Gator, and he told me that he found out the shooting mid-range really improved this X count, because you need that pinpoint accuracy, right? Precision. So that's what I started doing. I started shooting mid-range purposely to learn how to shoot X's per se, right? Because in mid-range, you are forced to shoot X's or you're not going to win. And that, believe it or not, has translated to long range. My X count is usually pretty high, and so is yours. And that's why I'm bringing this up. I don't know if you ever went on that journey yourself.
I know where you're going with that. I kind of have a reputation of having a lot of X's,
right?
But maybe it is a mid-range deal that helps with that, because I really don't shoot for X's. They just happen.
Well, like I said, I purposely had to go do it, because I was mainly 1,000-yard guy, because I'd buy you, it's like, hey, if you get a choice 300, 1,000, I just went to 1,000, right? And I had to make myself go shoot mid-range to increase my X count. And then after that, it literally changed my X counts,
Of course, and you're right. Of course, at mid-range matches, if you, it's always separated by the X count.
Right.
And our local mid-range thing is a 500-yard match, and it's kind of a wind tunnel. And it's, if you're not shooting 18 X's, then something's wrong.
Yeah, you're not gonna win.
And it might seem like you're not learning anything, but really it's about the mechanics at that point.
Right.
Have your equipment dialed in, and then learn the mechanics. And one important part about that, and I'll pass this on, and most people already know it, but I think the guys that use a 6mm or 6.5 at mid-range are really doing themselves a disservice. It's very beneficial to me just to stick to my 284. Wherever I go, it's the 284.
I've said that before as well, because they're just too easy to shoot, the 6mm.
They are.
And oh yeah, don't get me wrong. If you're out there to go have fun and just great, but if you're out there to improve your long range game, which is really the bottom line, what if you're trying to be I don't even know how to call it, but a top level competitor.
If you want to compete at the big matches, is what you're doing.
You have to go for the long range. And when I say that, a lot of people take offense to that, but the bottom line is, if you want to join the U.S. rifle team, you need long range qualifications. If you've never placed top 3 in a long range match, if you never and I'm talking like a state match, and they also have a nationals requirement that's maybe like a top 20 or something. But the point is, you need long range qualifications. But if you shoot with a light recoiling rifle, it's going to be hard. For one, that's not going to hold up at long range, right?
Yeah, and switching over is the hard part. And I shoot a lot, and it was you get into the mid range season, and I would shoot that 6.5-47. Your cartridge, Erik. And it's a joy, and it just pounds the X's. But then you grab the 284 and lay down, and it takes a while to get your rhythm back with that. So I just made a decision a while ago to put those smaller cartridges away.
Yeah, it's it's so hard to really explain how hard it is, because the 284 itself doesn't recoil much, but it recoils quite a bit compared to and it's not the recoil on our shoulders. We're not getting beat up by the recoil. It's the setup, right? The bags, the how consistent you can be, how fast you can shoot, all that.
You want to be able to lay down, pull the trigger, and not even think about where your shoulder is, not even think about what's going to happen. It's just, you want it to be so natural that, it never crosses your mind how to lay down there and grab the gun and get in position.
Steve Blair said it best to me. He said, you want it to be like someone that plays the guitar and sings at the same time. You know what I mean? You don't even think about it. You just want to be able to just do it.
It's a good analogy.
But so absolutely, man. So anyway, so you started, did you start with the 6.547 or did you start?
Well, I started FTR, the 223.
Oh, okay.
And then went to a 6XC.
Okay.
Which was a really good cartridge too.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there I went to a 284 and then back, playing with the 6.547.
Right. Did you ever play with Magnums?
Of course.
That seems to be the natural gravitational pull, right? Always the ballistic tables.
Yeah, always chasing that.
Sending people go chasing that magical ballistic chart, the ballistic fairies to push that bullet back into the center. Yeah. What did you find with the Magnums? I mean, obviously you're not shooting one.
Correct. So I did the RSOM for a while, the 7 RSOM, and the RSOM's pretty good, and I can shoot it good, and I'm not sure why I moved away from the RSOM, and I still have one ready to go. It just I think I get deterred by the barrel life on the 7 RSOM.
Okay.
And then I tried the Wisdom, chased John Myers for a while there with the Wisdom, but it never caught for me. It was just too much recoil. Maybe I didn't give it enough opportunity, but it was just significantly more than the 284. And I didn't want to take the time to learn it.
So back in, what I was telling you about my 2010, 2011, I was shooting 284 and I was doing really good with it. Good enough to make the U.S. rifle team. Yep. Once we made the rifle team, they're like, okay, throw away your 284s and your Sheehanes or whatever. Everybody needs to build Magnums. Yeah. Oh my God. Talk about, at least for me, my scores went like just in the tank. Going to a Magnum just drastically changed. I literally had to start over, right? And then once I was never happy with the 7 Magnums, and we're talking 2011 or 2012, so this is a long time ago in the evolution phase of the cartridges, right? Back then there was nothing, right? We were barely a kneeling brass back then,
No hybrid.
But exactly, but the point I'm making here is I went to the 300 after that because I was never happy with the 7. I went to a 300 and I thought that this is all I'm going to shoot forever. That's it. This is a great cartridge, easy to tune. Except it is extremely easy to tune. I was amazed. However, so I ran all the numbers right in the wind and everything. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. The numbers look amazing until I went to a 600-yard match and it was dead calm, and all the guys with a 6mm, they're just, on each side of me, and I'm having to shoot real slow because this thing's just torquing and lands on the next target, and then that's when I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm taking 100% of the punishment, literally, for only about a 15, maybe 10% gain, and I'm not talking ballistically, I'm talking about when it's actually going to help you. When is it really going to help you? And it's maybe 10% of the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then that's when I realized I'm done. I went back to the Sheehane. I used to free recoil my Sheehane back in 2010, 2011. I used to free recoil. Once I went to the Magnum, I couldn't free recoil that.
Oh.
So it just wouldn't shoot for me. So I spent a lot of time at 100 yards shooting groups to get consistent, kind of like you talk about the mechanics.
Right.
And now, well, now you know how I shoot. Now I hold on to the rifle, and I got that because of the Magnum, the 300.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
So it literally changed how I shoot, and I'm happy with it. But it just changes everything.
Yeah. I played with the free recoil. I still do. I try to, because I see guys be successful with it, but I can't be consistent.
Right.
And you guided me a little bit on that too. With hanging on to the gun.
It just seems
I can be consistent in how I do it. So that's what works for me.
Yeah, and again, that's what works for me. But then we often talk about our teammate Jay, right? His gun seems to have no control, but yet it lands in the X-ring every time. And it's like you look at that gun shoot, and you're like, that's gonna be lucky.
I can't copy it. I don't know.
Yeah, and so obviously he's consistent in how he does it, obviously. And I've actually shot his rifle before, and he told me, just shoot it like this. And I said, okay. And it actually worked, believe it or not. And whatever, man. The point is, he doesn't
let me shoot his gun because I make it look bad all the time. It doesn't work.
The bottom line is you just have to practice your style, right? Whatever you're going to do.
Develop your style, whatever it is. Develop it and continue it. And I tell guys all the time, I take thousands of dry fire shots in my living room. I just sit there and close my eyes and open my eyes and see where I'm at on the gun, on the scope. And not as much as I used to, but I used to spend hours. I'd watch TV and prone out on the floor in the living room with my gun.
Yeah. When my daughter, you remember my daughter used to shoot.
Sure.
When she wanted to start shooting, I said, okay, I'll teach you how to shoot. And I had her set up the rifle and the rest. And I set it all up for her the first time. I set it all up and I explained everything to her. And then I said, lay down and dry fire. And she dry fired. And, she dry fired for, 5 minutes. Like, okay, I'm ready. I'm like, no. I said, keep going. I said, whenever you are absolutely sick and tired of it, so you got about an hour left. Yeah. And I made her do it. And then after she dry fired forever, I said, keep your face on everything. I printed not a target, but an alphabet. I put an alphabet on a piece of paper and I put it out there. And I said, I want you to dry fire on the letter A, for example. So then what we started doing is started doing a game with her. And I said, okay, cat. And she chambered, dry fire on the letter C, and she had to move the joystick to the C, and she clicked, and then she had to, run the bolt, go to the letter A, and then T, and I would time her, right? And then I came up with multiple different words, and then I said, just keep doing that, and then I just kept timing her, and her time just kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And when we finally went to go shoot, she was real comfortable with the gun. Target acquisition was so fast moving over because of all the little exercises that I made her do. And as you know, she beat me a couple of times. Even at the Worlds, she became a pretty good.
That's a great idea. That's a good team practice, Erik. How come you haven't proposed that?
Well, it's set up for a little girl, so it's obvious that it might work for you guys. That's like I said, it was just one of those things that obviously I didn't want her live firing, right? But anyway, the point is, you can come up with all kinds of different things, but yeah, dry firing. My nephew is in the police department. He wanted me to teach him how to shoot. He came out here. I laid him down on the ground for like hours, and he never came back. And I said, that's part of it. You got to put in the work. But he wanted,
people, not all people.
Well, he wanted to go shoot. You know what I mean? When do we shoot? You got to do this first. And I had him, he's doing the standing and kneeling and offhand, all that.
Sure.
And I said, with the sling, and he'd get all set up with the sling and everything. And I said, okay, give me, 50 shots or whatever, or, just dry fire. And he would do that. And then I'd make him stand up and break down all his setup. And I said, okay, start over. But, that's how you do it. So anyway, just multiple different ways. So 284. I know you use burgers, right? Have you tried? It's like anything, right? We have cartridges, we have different bullets that everybody wants to try. It seems like every so often there's a new bullet and something better. And where are you on that?
Oh, I'm not immune to trying new, fancy new silver tip bullets that come out and all that stuff. And in the end, I always just kind of go back to the 284, 180 hybrid.
The old boring hybrid, huh?
Old boring hybrid.
That's where I'm at. I mean,
it's the easy button.
Yes.
It really is. And, I know we've had arguments before about seating depth and all that, but man, I go 20 to 30 off and go to 600 yards and shoot that range of seating depth, and they all go in the same spot. And
I'm done, huh?
they're done. Just load them up and go. I mean, it's not that easy, but you know what I'm getting at.
No, I know what you're saying.
Very forgiving in that department.
Well, I think what happens is you learn the bullet, right? You learn where it shoots best.
Yeah,
this is something that a lot of people, I think, creates confusion because they go, oh, these bullets like to shoot at 20 offs. Well, for you it does because you're using the same reamer, same everything, right? So
correct. For a while now.
Barrel to barrel, it's going to be very consistent. Yeah. So
a lot of my loads, I can just, they're the same across multiple barrels.
Right. Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. And, when I put a new barrel on, start working on it, I just use the ammo for the old one.
Yeah. It allows you to break it in.
Yeah.
It allows you to break it in and
get a feel
okay.
for it.
Right.
It usually doesn't move much from where it's at, or the barrels.
Speaking of break-ins, do you do the typical break-in or you just go shoot?
I go shoot.
Okay.
I'll go new barrel. I'll go shoot 20 rounds or maybe more, and then I clean it, and then shoot it again, and then clean it, and I'll take a barrel with 100 rounds on it to a match if it's.
Yeah. So here's the question. You'll take a barrel with 100 rounds to a match.
Yes.
So do I. Okay. The question is this: how many? Because by 100 rounds, you know how good the barrel is, right?
Yes.
You already. Now, how long do you give a barrel that won't shoot? How long do you give it?
I used to go like a 600, and now it's if it's 150 rounds, I know.
200 is about my number.
Yeah.
100, and
I might pull it down and try it with a different lot later, a lot of bullets or something later on, but none of them have come off the shelf as, oh, surprise. Oh, look, it shoots now.
Yeah. And just for context, what's a barrel that you would deem not a good barrel? Like what kind of groups?
Oh, so yeah, my range that I practice on is a 600-yard range, and basically I go for, I guess it'd be a quarter-minute group, inch and a half.
Okay.
Inch and a half squares.
And if it doesn't shoot inch and a half, it's gone.
Yeah.
At 600.
At 600.
Okay, so inch and a half. Is that the upper end? Like that's as big as you allow, or if it shoots like 2 inches?
Yeah, it has to shoot inch and a half.
Or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can't think of a barrel, but you know how it is, right? You have barrels, and some are just better than others. For example, you say, well, some may shoot inch and a half, but some may shoot 1 inch, like all the time. And then you're like, oh, this is a better barrel than that barrel.
Correct.
Even though most would be happy with inch and a half, we still kind of.
And good barrels will change a bit too. They'll get a little bit better, or they can go south as well. But yeah, I used to see a change at 600 where I would change my load.
600 rounds?
Yeah, 600 rounds.
Okay.
Yeah, like a midlife crisis or something.
Well, I don't know if you meant 600 yards.
No, yeah, sorry. Correct. Yeah. 600 rounds. I haven't seen that quite as prevalent, and I think maybe it gets to my cleaning regimen a little bit has changed.
So what has it changed to?
Well,
from what?
Yeah, actually, I asked you about this, and I'm not sure you got what I was talking about, but I stopped using the IOSO, and I don't know. I think that I have a thesis I'm working on, a theory that that hard carbon it actually protects the steel in the throat area. And so my current barrel, the barrel I shot at Nationals this year, it has about 1,300 rounds on it, and I haven't used IOSO on it one time, and it's still shooting dots. I mean, it's just boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I clean it my normal method now without IOSO, and there's of course there's still some hard carbon in there, but the throat area looks like a barrel that I have 300 rounds on. And it's not the only one that's done that.
How do you clean?
So the aggressive part for cleaning for me is the wire brush.
Okay, so you use a wire brush.
I use a bronze brush.
Okay.
It won't get it all. I mean, I guess it might if I was super aggressive. But,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the flavor of the day for me. You know, it's always evolving. It really is.
Yes. For me, it was, I would do IOSO every, I don't know, 300-400 rounds, like I talked to you about. And one day, our teammate, Steve, we're staying in a house together, and it was in Lodi. And he's cleaning while I'm watching TV, and I see his hand kind of chatter as he's pushing the rod in. And, you know, I said, well, it's a dirty barrel, whatever. And then we just keep talking. And then he's like, he puts the rod down, and I'm like, and he starts putting everything away. I said, wait, are you done? He goes, yeah. I said, no. I said, I see your hand chattering. I said, you got a lot of carbon in there. So I go in there, and of course, we didn't have a bore scope, but it just you could feel the chatter. And he'd been having consistency issues. His rifle just wasn't shooting very well. So I pulled out my IOSO, and I just went to town on that thing. And next day, he said everything was back. His gun was shooting incredible again. And that's when, speaking of John Myers, I was talking to John Myers about that. And he said that he uses it every time. And I said, okay. The person that, I don't think I told you this, but the person that first turned me to IOSO a decade ago was Herman Salazar. He's the one that I went to his house. My gun just wasn't shooting at the time, and he went and cleaned the crap out of it with IOSO. And I said, is that going to harm anything? And he's the one that told me, he says, well, abrasive is, you know, toothpaste is abrasive.
Yeah.
And he said, it's just, it ain't going to hurt nothing. And anyway, ever since I started using it, but not as often. And now I use it every time, you know, like, and of course, Jack, you know, Ventures guys, they said they use the crap out of it. So obviously it's, as they say, your mileage will vary, and you just have to find what works best for you.
It will. I had consistent results when I used IOSO, and those results were I would get about 1,300 rounds on a 284 barrel, and it would just start laying down copper to no end. And, you know, as long as I kept on it, it still shot good. I just would retire the barrels at that point.
Okay.
1,300 was it. I noticed a difference, and I didn't trust it to go to a big match. So what good are you if you can't go to a big match?
Right.
That, you know, that's kind of my philosophy with the barrel. You're always developing new barrels, and they get to a point where you can't take them to a big match, then, you know, they don't serve a purpose at that point.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Barrel life, 284. So you just said 1,300 roughly. That's what you would get. Or
yeah, and I tell people I've never had one actually, you know, go, wow, it doesn't shoot anymore. I just get to the point where I think it's probably done. And
you just don't want to clean it.
Because if I go to a mid-range match, you know, I'm using that opportunity to test the next long range barrel. Right.
And that's a good, so you just have a cycle that you develop, right?
Correct.
You go to mid-range matches, which is what's common in your area. You develop long-range barrels.
Yep.
And then you pick kind of the best out of the bunch, and then you take those to long range.
Exactly.
So do you develop your loads at 600? Is that
I do.
what you do?
Yes, totally at 600.
Okay, everything at 600.
You know what? I think if I had access to a 1,000-yard range, I would still do it at 600, but just confirm.
I was gonna say you wouldn't do it at 1,000 because I have it, as you know, I have a 1,000-yard range.
Too many
and
variables.
it just makes you pull your hair out. It's
Yeah.
so inconsistent. And it's not the load, it's just the variables like you talk about. As you know, most people know I do 100 yards just because it's so easy. And I've yet to find a barrel that shoots really good at 100 that won't shoot at long range. Now I may tweak it a little at long range, but I may just tweak the tuner a little, and that's it. But I don't change the load. So yeah. How many rounds to develop it? Like typically, how long does it take you to develop a load on average?
Oh, well, not very long because I do the same thing every time. I mean, I just go for a velocity window.
Mm-hmm.
And, the nodes are pretty consistent on the 284.
Right.
I'm kind of in the 2805, 2810 node now.
Mm-hmm. So you moved up a bit. You were a bit slower before, right?
I was the 2770, 2780.
Yeah.
So they both shoot good. It just, I can go down to the other one and be just fine.
Right. Now, you shoot, how long barrels do you shoot?
31 and like 3/4.
Is that by design or just?
That's just where it ended up. I do my own gunsmithing work. I do my own barrels. So that's just where it ended up.
So you're just not super.
I haven't done any testing on that.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know when you said 31 and 3/4. I don't know if you said, well, 32 shoot okay, but 31 and 3/4.
That's right where you want to be, man.
They win national championships.
Yep.
Have you ever read The Secrets of the Houston Warehouse?
A long time ago, I did.
Well, anyway, in there they say like 20 and 3/4 inch barrels is what they found was like the magic number. So I don't know if you had the long range magic number for us.
No, I often think that because I hear a lot of guys, good shooters, using 30-inch barrels, and I know there's that the barrel time thing and the shorter barrel with the different harmonics and reduce errors that way. It's just one of those things where the 31 and 3/4 has worked, so I don't change it.
Yeah, I use 32 but Larry Tate, he used 28 inch.
Oh, yeah.
And man, that boy could shoot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. His stuff was
you would assume that a shorter barrel would have inherently a little bit more accuracy or precision.
Uh-huh.
I guess you'd assume that, but I don't know how much barrel time bullet in the barrel comes into it.
Well, now you're talking way above my pay grade. I
think I heard Ian Clem say that on his 308, his gun moves a 1/16 of an inch before the bullet exits the barrel.
Vertically or back or what?
Back, I would assume.
Yeah. There's obviously stuff going on, right? That's why a tuner works. If it didn't, a tuner would never work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If the bullet left before it started moving, a lot of people claim that, but I just don't believe it. But anyway, there's just so much, right? And I think, am I right to assume or to make the statement that part of what makes you successful is simplifying the process?
Definitely. Man, guys get wrapped around some, idea that they need to brush the next 3 times inside of them or something I just use that as an example, but
right.
Yeah, it could be as simple, as you want to make it, and spend more time on the range kind of a thing, less time in the reloading room. There are important things in the reloading room, but not everything you read about. For sure. You got to agree with that, right?
Absolutely. I loaded one round there was a Joe from Precision Rifle Network was here last week, and I said, let me show you how I load my ammo. And I took one piece of brass and I took it to the amp annealer. There you go. The cat's out of the bag. That's my new annealer now. It's definitely proven better.
And you tried to blow your other one up yesterday.
But we didn't. But anyway, I took it to the amp, right? And then I went and full length sized my brass. And he's like, you're not going to, well, first it's like, you're not going to clean it. I'm like, no. I wipe the stuff and that's it. It gets sized. If I ruin the die, I'll make another one. You know what I mean? It's just, to me, it's a lot cheaper. But so
I never tumble. I use a full length die with dirty brass. I have thousands of rounds.
Me too. And I just made a decision one day. I thought, wait a minute, I'm spending an hour every time I reload so that I don't have to buy a $200 die or whatever. I said, that's so I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go and keep track of it. And to this day, that was like 8 years ago, I haven't wore out the die. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. So now I think about all the time I've saved, and it's like, if I had to put any monetary value on every hour, it's thousands of dollars that I've saved by not trying to save a $200 die, you know. But anyway, so dirty brass, and of course, you know, I have my auto drive. Do you size on a Dillon?
I followed you down that path. I have an auto drive.
I follow Jay.
I'm still trying to figure it out though.
I follow Jay. So Jay, we need to give Jay credit for this because Jay is another one of our teammates. But anyway, so Jay, is he the longest reigning Southwest Nationals champion? He's been
from the last one we had, I think so.
Right, he's been champion for like 2 years now.
Yeah,
because they canceled. But anyway, so Jay, very accomplished shooter himself, but he started the whole auto drive thing, and now we all use Dillons, right? You know, of course, there's the thing about you can't load accurate ammo on the Dillon, this, that, and the other. I think that goes back to simplifying your process, and you'll find out that a lot of stuff works. But anyway,
it does. It just guys get kind of wrapped up with like if I try harder or work harder at this, somehow it'll make it better. But you need to really minimize those wasted steps. Yeah.
So I anneal, I full length size, I trim, I seat the primer, and I drop powder, seat the bullet. That's it. And he's like, "That's it." I'm like, "That's it." 30, you know. Dirty brass, I don't care, you know, shoots great, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you load on a Dillon. Do you seat on the Dillon?
No, I'm learning how to load on a Dillon.
Okay.
I haven't put it into the operation yet.
What do you use now?
Single stage.
Which one?
The Mech. I have quite a few single stage presses over the years, but I have a Mech MEC.
Which one is that?
I think they're the shotgun guys.
Okay. Okay.
It's nice. It's very.
Oh, this is gonna blow people's minds. Tell them how you throw your powder.
Oh. So yeah, you know, I got to give kudos to my wife. She drops every charge for me.
But tell them what she uses.
Every single one. And. Well, we use RCBS Charge Masters.
Yeah, he uses Charge Masters.
But you know, we double weigh on. She double weighs on the Sartorius.
Oh, okay. So you check it
to the kernel. She is so precise on it. I look over and say, "Honey, that's enough." Good enough.
So does she get half the medal at least?
She gets all of them.
All of them. There you go. Yeah. You ordered a Prometheus now?
I have one on order.
Yeah. It's just gonna simplify everything.
I bought a lot of fancy scales, and she rejects them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She ain't gonna reject that. Well, I don't know. I can't. If she does, I'll buy it.
I only ordered one because you said if I didn't like it, you'd buy it.
I will. Offer stands. Because I'm looking for a second one. One for my PRS, one for F-class. Because anyway.
Yeah.
I'm all about time savings. That's my main driver in the reloading room.
Yeah.
So primer shortage, has that hit you any?
I was fortunate to find a bunch of primers on gun broker right when the shortage started happening.
Okay.
And got a pretty decent price on it.
So this is a good question to ask somebody like you. What amount of primers is, when you go say, I'm going to go buy primers, how many primers are you looking for? You know what I'm saying? Like how many, like you have a number. So you know what, I need primers. How many you go out and you go, I know you don't go try to buy 1,000. It's my question. How many do you go and say, I'm going to go buy X amount?
It's a big number.
I know that. That's why I'm asking. And the reason I'm asking,
minimum would be 10,000.
Right. And the reason I ask is because oftentimes people, they go buy 1,000 or 2,000 or 300, you know what I mean? And the thing that I found about primers is you can't ever have too many because they don't go bad, right?
They don't go bad.
And if you find a good primer, it's going to work with pretty much, you'll make it work.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
You'll develop, your load will develop around the primer.
Right. And because I oftentimes when I buy primers, I'm minimum 10,000 minimum. And maximum is pretty much.
Because you minimize something you got to deal with later.
Correct. It's like filling up your tank, right? Every time instead of putting in $10.
Yeah. Well, a little bit. Yeah.
Similar. But you know what I'm saying? Because that's what I did. And actually, when the whole shortage started on my small primers, I had BR4s and 205s. And I was talking to Speedy one day, and he was showing me his groups, and he said the BR4s in his current load, the PPC, just shoot amazingly well. And but he was running out. And I said, well, I got about, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 of them. I said, but I don't want to give them up. I said, I'll trade you. What do you have? He goes, I got 205s. He goes, I got like 40,000 of those. I said, I'll trade you. Just heads up. And so I was able to consolidate my 205 stash, right? Because like I said, I'm in my...
Yeah, you've always been the federal guy.
Not so much, but in my PRS rifle, it's it'll work either way. But,
okay.
Either primer will work. I was just pretty much picking up. I like to try multiple primers. Just because some work a little better than others, but it's, and I'm looking not for, like in PRS, the reason I tested different primers, I'm testing how wide of a node I can get.
Sure. Not
tiny groups, but how wide, because then I just I was literally, the plan was to throw with a powder thrower.
Oh.
So that was the,
speeding up the process.
Oh, absolutely. But anyway, so that's kind of how I ended up with multiple primers. But yeah, so I consolidated my stash, and I think it'll get me through this shortage.
I hope so.
What about bullets? What's your number when you go buy?
Well, before this shortage, I just kept a few thousand in inventory, but now, I order 5,000 at a time, and as soon as that arrives, I order 5,000 more.
Yeah, it's just
last year I had, I had 5,000 or 6,000 bullets sorted and pointed, and I look over on that shelf with those Tupperware things, and they're empty. In a year.
How much do you shoot? Like, how much have you?
That was my only indicator. I don't keep track, but last year was 5,000 rounds.
Yeah. It's amazing how fast, when I started, what was it, 2017, 2018, I went and I was shooting F-class, and I started shooting PRS, and a friend of mine, I never kept track, but he asked me one day, and we just kind of started doing the math just based on the matches that I went to. And I think we came up that I had shot about 9,000 rounds that year. It adds up fast.
It's crazy, isn't it? And you wouldn't have guessed that.
No, absolutely not. It just adds up.
I wouldn't have guessed the 5,000 for me. That's just seemed mind-boggling.
Yeah, that's a lot of matches, assuming 100, typical one-day match is 75 rounds, right?
Right, yeah.
That's close to, 5,000 be about 80 matches.
Yeah, well, I didn't shoot 80 matches, but
well, I mean, you probably shot a lot of
a
lot of 2-day matches and all that. But yeah, so Todd, what's next, man? Now, I mean, you are we are on the same team. So we won the team national championship a bunch of times, right? So that's kind of out of the way. Now you have the individual national championship. Have you won you won the burger mid-range as well, right?
Yeah, burger mid-range. Yeah.
Yep.
Been close on the long range.
Yep. So what's next? Like, what's your next thing? Like, what's, because there's always, I know how it works. There's always something that you say, that's what I want now.
Well, of course, the next goal would be Worlds, if that ever happens.
Right.
And, yeah, I had a really good lot of powder that I was saving for Worlds, and that got used up at V2 and the Nationals this year.
So, okay, speaking of V2, consistency, I don't think there's anybody more consistent than you for the last couple of years, at least, you're always up there. And V2, you were there. I mean, you arrived undefeated, and then it just didn't work out at the end, but you were there.
Not to make excuses, but I think I didn't clean one time. And I think that.
You didn't clean your barrel?
No, my gun opened up there on that last day, and hindsight's 20/20.
Right.
But it hadn't failed me before for that, and so I did clean Nationals at that same barrel.
You did clean?
I did. Not aggressive, but it ran some patches a couple nights.
Yeah. So you are. How does mentoring somebody help you stay in the game?
What's that? Repeat that, Erik.
Mentoring someone, because I know you got somebody that you're mentoring right now, and it helps me kind of get excited about the game, and I'm wondering if it does the same for you.
Absolutely, because I don't want to say this wrong, but we go to the matches, we shoot, some we win, some we place good, some we don't, but it gets to be the same thing a little bit. But to help somebody that is, you see passion in their eyes, and this is great, and man, I can do it. I mean, that's just as much satisfaction as winning a match. It really is.
Right. Yeah, it's just amazing how their spark kind of helps us, right? It's you see somebody who's shooting, their best score ever.
It takes you back to when you started, and the enjoyment you got out of the little accomplishments, the big accomplishments at the time, but it was just steps, the progression.
Right.
Steps,
and because it doesn't feel like that long ago for me when I was excited to shoot a 198. My first goal was to make high master, right? So anytime I shot above 196, I was like, okay, I'm good. So to shoot a 198, I was super excited. Or nowadays, you know how it is. If you're not shooting a clean with 10 plus X's, now we even get picky about the scan.
Failure.
Right? Doesn't it feel? I mean, you're Mr. 18 X's. You shoot 18 X's like nobody's business. That's a lot of X's. But am I right? Like, if you're not shooting a clean with more than 10 X's, it seems like
you have to let down. You let yourself down. You did something wrong. Yeah, right. And that margin, to sustain that, it's difficult. I mean, it's 1,000 yards. A lot of things happen between you and the target, and we put on ourselves to do that. Sometimes it has a negative influence on us. Maybe you're not successful at it. I mean, you got to look why you're doing it too. You're there to enjoy it, and camaraderie. I mean, how many people do we know that shoot F class that we call friends now?
Yeah, man, a lot. A lot of people. Like, most of the people that I would consider good friends have come from F class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, there is a lot of really good people. Pretty much anywhere, but in F class, it's amazing. I think the shooting sports brings together a lot of really good people.
It's probably 99.9% of the people I'm primarily in the F class, so I have to use that as my basis, but 99% of the people would help a new person in an instant. and just go out of their way.
Right.
Need something, I got it for you. It's that kind of a group of people.
Yeah, I mean, they'll give you their rifle to shoot. You know what I mean? Hey, I got a backup rifle. And not only that, this is the crazy part, right? Not only that, but then if you beat them with their own rifle, they're super happy, right? Because they just
like loaded money at the poker table.
Yeah. But it's great, man. It's great stuff. But anything else, Todd? Anything else you got that you want to add for maybe the newer shooters that are watching you and, wondering how you become a national champion?
Well, I hit it on it earlier, that the most important thing you can do in the beginning is lay in the living room, dry fire, find a comfortable position. That's so important. For a long time, I'd say, I can shoot any gun. I can lay down and make it work. But yeah, you can make it work, but you're not giving yourself the best opportunity. All my stocks are the same. All my scopes are the same. I lay down behind one gun. If I close my eyes, I don't know what gun it is. Consistency in my equipment builds consistency in your form, your mechanics. And that's probably one of the most important tips.
Be consistent.
Yeah. Build consistency.
So actions, you use Borden's, right?
Yeah, Jim Borden has been a great sponsor for us, builds great actions, BRMXDs.
Yeah, those things they literally have changed the game for me. I had the first one, and
yeah, you did. 001, right?
I still have it. I have 1 and 2.
Oh, nice.
My rifles are 1 and 2. But I remember I showed it to Jay that day that I had it at Burger 2015 or something.
Yeah, I remember.
And he sold his action that night, and he bought a.
He's notorious for that. He showed him something at the range, and he's selling it on the drive home.
So Jay has number 3. I have 1 and 2. Jay has 3, but it's yeah. So Borden actions, Jim just, man, his stuff has really took off because it's really that good. Most people think an action is not going to bring an advantage. How do you feel about that?
Well, there's probably other custom actions that can be just as competitive, but I, in that little handful of 3 or 4 different customs, I mean, if you're not using one, you're probably at a disadvantage, and on multiple levels. All my barrels can be screwed on one action, taken off, put on the other action, and I don't see hardly any difference between them.
What about you touched on that? You said a very little handful, because there's not a little handful of action makers, but there's a very little handful that really. I guess what we can say, no, not all custom actions are the same, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we can end it. You can leave it right there, but just
yeah,
look around and see what.
Talk bad about anybody's products.
Right, but I'm saying,
great product, Jim Borden. You can't go wrong with the BRMXD for F class.
Right, barrels.
Brooks and Bartland, they've both been very supportive of me. I've had equal success with both of them.
And X-ring, you shoot X-ring stocks, right?
I do. Yeah.
So here's a question that popped up before, because you know the stocks that I use. I don't think I can even get those anymore. And right. Somebody said something along the lines of a stock's not going to make a difference in how you shoot or how the rifle shoots. But we know that to be different, and I don't think nobody better than you knows that. And Bob Siebold. But it can make a drastic difference, right, on how a rifle shoots.
It can. Yeah.
Do you think that actually has to do with the fact that the rifle or the harmonics or any of that, or more with the fact of that's just what you're used to and that's what you can shoot better?
It's a little bit of both, but there's something to the design that will help it. It's maybe not the right word or way to say it, but
Mhm.
I spent, quite a bit of time working with Jason, the owner of X-Ring, on the current design that I use. And I personally, I think it's a very big advantage for me,
Mhm.
that design of stock compared to other stocks I've shot.
Right.
And
The-
and I know that because of the testing I've done side by side.
Yeah, like I said, I know you've done tons of testing, and that's why I wanted to ask you about stocks, because I know you've tested a lot of different ones.
Yeah.
And now you just, we don't want to say how many rifles you have, but you have more than two, right? And
I
every
have
time,
too. Yeah.
and every time you change one thing, you change everything. So you absolutely believe the whole thing about keeping them all the same.
Yeah. And Jason is I got to put a plug in for him. He took the time to work with me on this, and we developed it together. And anybody can get that stock now.
What do they call it? The Hendricks?
They do. Yeah.
Is that what they call it? Awesome. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just gave it to Jason. Said, run with it.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't realize.
My design, but it's our design.
So what is the design? What's different? Can you say?
Yeah, because he'll tell you if you're interested. Basically, I changed the angle of the action, and the angle of the action and the barrel is bedded in the stock, which translates to the angle of the bottom of the stock.
Okay, so this angle.
Correct.
So they're not parallel to each other?
They're not.
Okay.
And the reason for that is I had an idea that on recoil, you can never get, everybody tries to bed their actions and barrel at zero, they're even, but it's impossible to get even. And then not only that, then we go to 1,000 yards and we lift that barrel up 26 minutes. So you're not shooting even. So why should that, stock be bedded and action at 0 degrees? So, and I don't have a mathematics degree to know what the recoil forces are. I just know when it's tilted up, it's like a tank. When you see a tank shoot in the movies, I think the front end comes off the ground. Well, that's what's happening on our rifles. So anyways, I put a negative angle on the bottom of it, and I put it at I think it's 35 minutes, 0.7 degrees. And I figured it always has a positive displacement that way. You don't want a lot of interference coming back on the bags, but there's always a positive downward push on it. And you don't have the lifting. So, and I guess to explain it even more, so I took a couple stocks that were identical, identical as you can get X-ray stocks, and bedded them both for the same barrel action, and did one at 1 degree and one at 0 degree, and did multiple testing with same load. Shoot a group, pull it out, put it in the other stock. Shoot a group, pull it out, put it in another stock, and back in the angle stock, just back and forth over multiple days at the range. And I can actually say that the angled version shot a better, tighter group 100% of the time.
So, okay, so you had the barreled action that you would move around to different stocks. So everything was identical. The only thing that was changing was the stock.
Correct. And they were both identical X-rings other than
the angle.
Angles, yeah.
Okay, so you isolated everything down to the angled.
Yeah.
So just a visual. This is your stock. Everybody wants to bet their actions like this, right?
Yep.
You did this. I'm exaggerating.
Correct.
This is the front.
Yep.
So when it recoils, it actually pushes down into the
But
bag.
now take your arms and put the barrel level. Do that again.
Oh, but
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, when you have it in the bags, it's like this, right? This is the front.
Yeah, so it's the barrel's angled up 26 minutes, right?
Right.
And the stock is angled down 35 minutes.
Okay. So the bottom line is, whenever you're at 1,000 yards, right? Just the target's over here. You're I'm exaggerating, but your barreled action looks like this, right?
Correct.
But your stock is level, right?
A little bit down, actually.
Well, okay, so
There
down.
you go. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so when you
So
shoot,
you always have a positive displacement on recoil into the bags.
oh, so it always so it shoves down into the bag.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. Okay. Well, dang it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's just one of those things. And you took the time to experiment and
Yeah, that's what we all have ideas, but everybody's on the forums too. Hey, what would happen if you did this and this? Well,
go do it, find out.
You
Well,
gotta test.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Anything else, Todd?
I think that's it, Eric.
Lepua brass, pretty much the basic recipe, right?
Cool brass. So I bought some of the new 284 brass, but I haven't worked it into my system yet.
Do you neck turn?
Yes.
Neck turn. So pretty much the basic recipe. Lepua brass, neck turn, 180 hybrids.
I know guys, some of our teammates are successful without neck turning, but it's what I do and my reverb.
I'm on the same boat. I've often considered not turning, but at the same time, it's one time, get it over with, and then it's just
do it in the winter, get it over with.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, Todd, man, I appreciate this interview. I know this is going to help a lot of people.
I hope so.
Hearing from a national champion, not only a national champion, but somebody that as consistent as you. And how you managed to be that consistent and,
practice.
All right, man. Thank you,
Okay.
Todd.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Congrats again.
Thanks.
And I